Hey guys, Nintendrew here. Once again, E3 is right around the corner, and in just a few short days, I'll be flying across the country to check out the show floor and bring you the latest news firsthand from Los Angeles. But before I pack my bags and head out, I thought this would be a great opportunity to share with you all some of my predictions for Nintendo at E3 2019. So, in this video, we'll take a look at some of what we already know about Nintendo's plans for the rest of the year, and I'll share what I think we might see during their next Nintendo Direct. Let's get to it. Okay, so first things first, the big elephant in the room is the issue of the alleged Switch Pro and Switch Mini consoles. Two new revisions of Switch hardware have been rumored since almost as long as the Switch has been on the market, and it seems all but inevitable at this point that those new versions of the Switch are going to come out eventually, at some point. Up until very recently, I thought that the Switch Mini and maybe the Switch Pro would both be revealed at this year's E3, although more recently Nintendo has actually come out and made a statement and said they have no plans to reveal any new hardware at E3. So now I'm thinking that might have to happen a little later in the year or maybe even in early 2020, so I don't think we'll see any new hardware revisions this time around. That being said, it has been confirmed by multiple outside sources and also pretty much all but confirmed from some internal reports from Nvidia about producing a whole bunch more of the Switch chipset. So we'll just have to wait a little bit longer to see what those look like. However, before we totally dismiss the idea of new hardware, there is one kind of off-the-wall prediction that I have that I'd like to share with you guys. Some of you might remember that one of my first videos on the channel was about the potential for the Switch to act as a VR platform, and more recently we saw the Nintendo Labo VR kit come out, which provided players with some very simple little VR experiences in the fun of a Labo kit. Now, I don't know if this would make sense to happen this year at E3, especially now knowing that they're not going to be showing off any new real hardware, but my kind of weird prediction for this video is I'm pretty sure Nintendo is working on a more permanent solution for VR on the Switch. Literally years ago, before the Switch came out, there was a patent that surfaced for a legit VR headset that you could insert the tablet into, and I think Nintendo is still working on something like that, more sturdy and more permanent than the Labo VR kit. One of the things that leads me to think this is that we've been seeing new VR experiences show up in their mainline titles. Breath of the Wild got a VR experience, Mario Odyssey got a VR experience, and now Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has a VR mode, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to me that they would keep developing these little VR experiences without another stream of revenue. So I don't think like adding a VR mode to Smash Ultimate really got them all that many more VR Labo kit sales. So I started thinking about it, and I was thinking, what other reason would they have for just providing more value to that kit? Well, if they're working on a more permanent plastic headset that you can use with potentially the next model of Switch hardware, that would make a lot more sense. Maybe they're opening this up to third-party developers and they really want to start pushing to actually compete in the VR ecosystem. Especially if the rumors of the Switch Pro turn out to be true and this newer console has a 1080p screen or perhaps even better than 1080p, that would address one of the biggest concerns with the Labo VR kit, that being the low resolution of the base Switch model's screen. That 720p is pretty much the absolute lowest you could get away with for a VR system, and still, like, a lot of people have issues with that screen door effect. So that's my weird prediction is I think eventually, if not at this year's E3, eventually in some Nintendo Direct, I think they're going to be revealing a more permanent solution to cement the Switch as a competitor in that VR space. Now, I am recording this on June 6th. E3 starts on June 11th, and that is also the morning that the Nintendo Direct is going to go up. But just earlier today, we got the announcement of which games are going to be playable on the show floor at E3, and that includes Pokemon Sword and Shield, Luigi's Mansion 3, and The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening for Switch. So those were kind of a surprise. I was expecting before the announcement that Pokemon Sword and Shield would be the only playable game, but I am super stoked that we're going to have the chance to play Luigi's Mansion 3 and Link's Awakening so soon after their announcements. As far as titles that we know exist but haven't seen too much of yet, I am expecting that we will probably see a gameplay reveal for Animal Crossing on Switch. It has been a long time since that announcement, and it makes a lot of sense for them to finally show off at least a gameplay trailer. And this might be an unpopular opinion, but I think we might actually see a new trailer for Metroid Prime 4. I know the game went under a total change of direction very recently, and the devs are working to pretty much build it from the ground up again. But I have my reasoning for thinking why we might see a new trailer, and I'll explain that here in just a moment. Now, of course, there's going to be plenty of surprise reveals that we have no clue about, and that's always the case with Nintendo at E3. But that's also doubly confirmed by a recent article I was reading on Nintendo Life, which shows that GameStop's database has listed more than 20 new unannounced Switch titles. So 20 new SKU numbers have appeared in the GameStop database, and it's safe to assume that at least a good portion of those are going to be unannounced titles that we will see revealed during Nintendo's presentation. The only reason I think we might see a new trailer for Metroid Prime 4 is that there have been very persistent rumors that we're going to see Metroid Prime Trilogy ported to the Switch. If one of these surprise titles is a port of the Metroid Prime Trilogy collection, it would make a lot of sense for Nintendo to show that alongside a new teaser for Metroid Prime 4. It doesn't make sense for us to have any sort of a gameplay trailer or anything that complex for this E3 because of the game's recent change in development. But it's not outside the realm of possibility that we might get another teaser trailer, something similar to the first trailer we got for Metroid Prime 4. Another thing that I think could potentially be a big part of Nintendo's show is a partnership between Nintendo and Bethesda. So Bethesda is gearing up to release Doom Eternal for PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. By all accounts, the Doom Eternal port for Switch runs great, and I don't doubt it with the excellent Doom port that we saw earlier on for the Switch. And I recently saw on Twitter that Bethesda has been painting murals in the surrounding area around the LA Convention Center for Doom Eternal, so I expect that to be the big game that has a lot of money behind it, advertising for E3 this year. So I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo and Bethesda are a little bit buddy-buddy during each of their respective press conferences, because I think Doom Eternal on the Switch is a very interesting prospect for gamers, and is almost certainly going to be a really good port. And finally, the last thing I'd like to cover is some of the fighters that I think we might see revealed for the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Fighters Pass DLC. Of course, Joker was the first fighter revealed for the Fighters Pass, and we have 4 more to go, and there's been people who have been putting out crazy ideas about who might be included, but one theory in particular has caught my eye because it's actually based on some real concrete data that people have been able to recreate at home, and actually seems kind of odd for a coincidence. This potential leak is called the Google theory, and originated from the Discord server of Papagenos on YouTube. This theory predicts that the 4 as of yet unannounced fighters will be Doomslayer from Doom, Ryu Hayabusa from Ninja Gaiden, Artorias from Dark Souls, and Banjo and Kazooie. Now, for an explanation about how they came up with those characters, basically what happened is, in Europe, if you were to go on Google and search a specific phrase, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Fighters Pass, and then a character's name, if you were to search certain characters' names, you would see an official ad for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Of course, Joker was one of those characters that triggered this ad to appear, but after a bit of research, some clever people in the community discovered that that specific ad only showed up for very specific character names. Those 4 characters turned out to be Doomslayer, Artorias, Ryu, and Banjo-Kazooie, and this was recreated by plenty of people in the community, and is something that, although it's been taken down now at this point, it was something that I was able to recreate here at home as well. What makes this even more interesting is that now it appears those search terms have been blacklisted from that ad in particular. So now it's almost like the opposite situation, where you type in any character's name and the ad will appear, but if you type in specifically Doomslayer or you type in Artorias, the ad doesn't appear at all. So it almost seems like someone from the marketing team at Nintendo of Europe might have jumped the gun a little bit too early and allowed Google to use these specific keywords that weren't meant to be public just yet. Now, I was fully invested in the Grinch leak from last year, if you guys remember that predicted the remaining characters on the Smash Ultimate roster, and that turned out to be a total hoax. I was absolutely astounded that someone was able to craft this incredibly well-designed fake leak, and I was totally fooled by it. So take this whole thing with a grain of salt, but as far as potential leaks go, I do feel like the Google theory has some heft to it, and is just pretty strange to be just a coincidence. But that's about it for my predictions for Nintendo at E3 2019. But what do you think? Do you agree with my predictions? Or maybe you have your own predictions you'd like to share? Make sure to let me know down in the comments below. As always, if you did enjoy the video, please do consider subscribing to Nintendrew for all sorts of cool gaming content, and make sure to share it with any friends who might find it interesting. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye! Hey guys, thanks again for watching and for making it all the way to the end of the video. If you like this one, here are 2 more videos you might like as well. As always, if you like what I do and would like to help out the channel, I've got a link to my Patreon on the right side of your screen. And otherwise, I hope you look forward to the next one. Take care!